Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Mass Reflect, a podcast where we go back and play through the Mass Effect Legendary Edition and ask the question, what is it trying to say? I'm your co-host, Rob.
And I'm your co-host, Betrys.
And, we just played through we played through one of the most wild sections that I think we've seen yet in Mass Effect, the Citadel. Starting from when we arrived to basically leaving. I mean, I pretty much left and then hung out on my ship and ended there. So
yeah, I pretty much did the same.
I wanted to take a chance to chat with everybody, get what the situation was, and there were some things that we're definitely going to talk about from there. So I'm glad I took the time to do it.
I basically just talked to Garrus, but I won't lie to you, I was never going to talk to Caden or Ashley.
They don't have anything to say
in
this section of the game anyway, because I want to get everybody. I know there is stuff in those characters that I really want to discuss as part of the podcast. So I keep going to them being like, all right, time to talk about your weird abusive upbringing, Caden. And he shuts me down every time.
I really love the Caden things because it's this cool thing where he's like weirdly floaty with the female shepherd, regardless of your input.
Yeah. No, I remember that from the times I've played as a female shepherd. It's very inappropriate for a workplace
officer.
To talk to a senior officer that way.
Like, let's get out of workplace. Like, yeah, it is. It would be gross. Like, within the context, it's utterly ridiculous.
It's going to come up, I think, as we get deeper into it. My level of discomfort with the idea that with the romance stuff in this game. That at the time, I think playing it as a teenager, there's a little bit of a little bit of just being a teenager to that, watching it. But the thing is, now I look at the situation, I'm like, and it's like, well, which one of the women in your team, if you're male shepherd, are you going to date? And it's like, maybe that Fox News news segment that attacked this game for that, I don't think they had the right reasons for going after this, but I might agree with them more than I do with the defense of it now,
No, I remember their line of attack basically being, why is there deviant alien depictions of sexuality? No, they were trash. It wasn't.
No, that's what I said. I think they are not. No, they were just looking. It's Fox News. Yeah, they're just looking for a reaction.
I guess to me, your intentionality matters with that. Regardless of if. Because I also might have more issues with that now than I used to.
Yeah, but we haven't even touched on that stuff yet, so, except for one of the side quests, which we might get into, I don't know. I
also wonder how different my perception would be if the society was more like Star Trek, because that's a element of Star Trek shows, too.
Yes. Yeah, it is an element of Star Trek shows, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess in that way, with it being Mass Effect, it made a certain amount of sense coming from the previous BioWare games, right? Where now Mass Effect was... Did Mass Effect have an M rating when it came out? Yeah, so it was all right, we're doing the M rating, so we're going to do the things that we couldn't do with previous BioWare games. So it's not just there's going to be a romance subplot and maybe there's a weird awkward kiss scene. It's no, now we're going to have weird awkward sex scenes.
Absolutely. Yeah, weird awkward sex scenes. That became a BioWare thing. To this day.
Speaking of weird awkward scenes, so we arrive at the Citadel and we have a meeting with Captain Anderson and Ambassador Udina. The human ambassador to the council, who is the first and only human politician that we meet in the main story of this game, to my memory.
Yes.
And he is sort of trashing you and Captain Anderson for the situation having gone so badly, even though it was a situation you couldn't do anything about. And then deciding that they have to go talk to the council to convince them that Saren is a bad operator. Did we have any thoughts on this, on meeting the human ambassador?
My thoughts? I was kind of curious as to why, like, there wasn't a long-term investigation process, and it was basically like, well, in the time you did a hyperspace jump, whatever Mass Effect relay jumps are called. Mass relay jump?
Yeah. I think FTL might just be, I think it might just be FTL, now that I'm thinking about the Codex entry. But that might also just be in the Codex entries.
Well, yeah, I know, but there's also, like, a native FTL that isn't linked to Mass Effect drives, which is also too slow to get very far in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Whatever. You did an FTL thing, and we're already wrapping up this investigation on a Spectre. We didn't find anything. Big shock. I guess he's exonerated. It's a really weird order of operations, especially when you then investigate him.
Yes, especially because all of the investigation takes place on the Citadel, and
Yeah,
I'm not sure
that too.
what evidence they expected to find on a place where the crime didn't happen. Like, I don't know why they didn't go to, like, Eden Prime and start looking for, like, video recordings and surveillance, which, I mean, there probably was, because we know that there are body cams, like, so why doesn't Nihilus, I mean, well, we know why the Spectres don't have body cams, let's be real, but, like, you know, there's enough cameras around that probably would have seen Saren, that, you know, 5 minutes of investigation would have revealed him to have been there.
The Spectres was supposed to have body cams. Nihilus was fighting for this, but Saren and the Council gutted it from the last security authorization bill.
Well, you know, the thing is, they're supposed to have body cams, but so often when, you know, the body cams just turn off, they're unreliable, you know?
Mm-hmm. Look, you do things in the Terminus systems and pass the... Damn, I can't remember enough Mass Effect names yet.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Oh, it'll be bad. Look, sometimes in Omega, your body cam just goes dead when you're with a perp, and they may end up missing.
Yeah.
And look, that's just what happens in Omega. Forget it, Jake. It's Omega, baby.
Omega. I can't wait to get to... After doing the Citadel, I can't wait to get to Omega. Oh, boy. But, you know...
I feel like the Omega might be a letdown, because the Citadel was super wild.
Yeah. Oh, God. So, we'll just get through it so we can get to this part of the game that I really want to talk about. Yep, you have a meeting with the council. They exonerate Saren, basically saying there's no evidence except multiple witness testimony. You know, expert witness in the fact that they were there.
Well, there was one guy who then told his story to you, and also there is the fact that, like, you know, Nihilus was killed by a shot to the back of the head. But apart from that, there's nothing.
There's no evidence that...
No evidence.
Yeah. A shot to the back of the head with a gun. I mean, you can match ballistics on guns. I imagine it's the future. Well, we can do that now.
I actually don't know about that because of how the guns are described to work in the first Mass Effect.
That's true. Yeah.
Especially.
I mean, that's fair.
It was a metal shaving that was fired at faster than light speeds. Oh, like all of the guns? Yeah, like all of the guns.
It's also, like, I love the moment where the council just kind of, like, slaps the Alliance on the wrist, being like, well, you know, you should have protected it better. This is why we don't colonize the Terminus systems. You know, you were...
Not even... I wouldn't even say slaps them on the wrist. It's like, clearly... Not clearly, but I actually don't get the Terminus systems in this game, and then how they're described in, like, Mass Effect 2.
I don't remember enough about them to understand what they are, and like it is something that has come up that hasn't come up at least in any of my Codex entries. Maybe I just haven't gotten the Codex entry that breaks down what the terminus systems are.
Let me see if I can find, because I know it's mentioned. Not so much in like its own entry, but in like other entries.
And it's weird because like one of the things that's established is like, okay, well, we can teleport around we can go around the galaxy, but because of the way we do it, even though we've, when you look at the map, you can see the entirety of the galaxy. We've only really explored 1% of it because it is linked to where the Mass Effect relays are, which I kind of liked, right? It wasn't like, one of the things I like about Mass Effect is how it treats space. So like the unexplored isn't us expanding out a map like it would be on Earth. The unexplored is like, no, we could be around something, but because there's no Mass Effect relay to get there, we can't actually get there,
Yeah.
It definitely makes the galaxy a little more dangerous than, it maybe feels in something like Star Wars or even Star Trek. But at the same time, I feel like now I'm just curious, like, oh, how do we get there? I want to see where that stuff. I want to see why that stuff matters, maybe, and I want to understand the broader context of it, rather than getting brought up in these like scenes where characters discuss it as though we should understand what that means.
Yeah, especially because at least the way they talk about the terminus systems, it sounds like it's some kind of rival to council power.
Yeah. Like, it also, I mean, one of the things I found really interesting about this section of the game was discussing, like, what is it that the council actually oversees and controls, right?
Yeah.
And it's not particularly clear because in the Codex they describe it as like, oh no, each alien race still has their independent government, but each of the independent governments seem completely like in service to the council in actual fact.
I mean that makes sense. It's a lot like, I don't know, let's say the IMF. You can make your economy any way that you want, but if the IMF doesn't like it, they can really put the screws on you. It's a similar situation is how I'm vibing it. Or we could say like it's like America's use of soft power, right? Yeah, you have complete autonomy over what you do, but if you do stuff that the council doesn't like, well, you're gonna start getting sanctions, and you won't be able to trade for all the stuff that you need, and you might be blackballed from certain things in council space, and
I mean, the thing is, one of the points that comes up in the Codex entries is the council controls the Mass Effect relays, and the Mass Effect relays are how you do FTL communications.
Yeah, that's fun, right?
So the council controls who talks to each other.
I mean, more importantly, if you have colonies and you're in council space, how do you pull out of it? Because if the council controls the Mass Effect relays...
Oh no, it could be...
And you have colonies.
The thing that... Reading the Codex entries...
Yeah, I feel like we now already sound like we're just becoming very focused on the Codex entries.
I know, and I feel bad,
huge...
but they're so interesting. And it's like, the thing that, like, when I played this game originally, I was thinking about this afterwards. Like, when I played this game originally, the conflict becoming, all of organic life versus the Reapers seemed very natural to me playing through it originally, where I wasn't going and reading every Codex entry. But now that I am, like, I feel like the Reaper conflict is maybe the least interesting conflict that could come out of the world that has been established. Like, whereas, like, I'm more interested now in asking the questions of, like, what happens when the three council races go to war with each other? You know?
Yeah, right? Yeah, I don't love this whole Reaper threat already, and I know what happens to it, and I don't remember liking what happens to it.
I now think
I'm
after
so
what we've
excited,
played,
actually.
yeah, I'm now really open. I think to like I need to see it to know, but I'm now really open to where I think all this stuff is going. But it really depends on how we get there. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember the ending point, and I have a lot of feelings about it now replaying the beginning of this game. But I don't know if that is going to be borne out in how we get to that ending point.
Yeah.
Because like I remember being annoyed at the end of Mass Effect 3, being like, "What? How could you have this great, lived-in universe, this place that you could tell stories forever, and destroy it?" And I still feel that like it is a rich world, but at the same time, I think it does not deserve to exist. So I wonder how I'm going to get to how I'm gonna feel about it once we reach the end of Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, but I guess here's what's actually fascinating to me now about that is I feel as though the developers, were like, this is a really lived-in world that we could do a lot with. We're gonna destroy it because that's what you do with a high-concept thing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that it's not... I don't think we're going
This is what you do with art, versus...
This isn't deciding that Galactic Empire is bad. This is no, Galactic Empire is good, but we are going to destroy it to have a dramatic end to this. I don't think we're going... I don't know. We might... But, I also want to leave this open to the possibility that we might get to the end of Mass Effect 3 and be like, no... Right?
Yeah.
I keep saying humanity when I mean the council species.
No, you should say humanity because I'm sorry, that's what the game actually thinks.
Yes.
The game does not think the council races. The game thinks humanity.
The council
which
races
is maybe a thing we should get into too as well.
Yes. I don't know. We should save this maybe for the end of Mass Effect 3. It is something I can't get out of my head now.
I think the discussion about humanity we should start having well before then because it's important.
Yeah.
How they view humanity specifically. Sorry. I didn't mean to get weirdly strident.
No, I meant we should save the end of Mass Effect 3 for when we get there. Was all.
We totally should. No. So we'll talk about that in a year.
Yeah, in a year we're going to talk about it.
In a year.
So I took some time before going to meet the council to go check out the Citadel area. It's pretty wild. There's some good stuff there. For instance, there's a statue of the Krogan commemorating them for having destroyed the Rachni.
This is the statue of the Krogan from when they destroyed the Rachni, and this is the statues of the Turian from when they destroyed the Krogan. And what's that plinth? Don't worry about that plinth.
It is. Oh no.
That's when the humans destroy the Turians.
The Asari are so wild in this game, right? That's what this comes down to. The Asari are so wild. Oh my
Asari, god. The whole thing is one of the... it's very funny. Sorry, you go though. You continue to talk.
Yeah, no, we should probably continue on our recap.
Yeah, not just a dumb joke that I laughed through the middle part of, yeah.
No, the Turians came in to Citadel space to take out the Krogan, is the thing that I learned from reading the Codex entries about them.
Yeah, they became a council race because of how cool they were, killing the Krogan.
The Asari and the Solarians are basically like, we don't know how to deal with the Krogan. Then the Turians showed up, and we're like, oh, we know what to do. And what's great is, the Solarians worked with it's not great, it's horrific, that the Solarians worked with the Turians to develop the genophage, which we'll learn more about, because they don't give a ton of details at first about what the genophage is. And the Solarians are basically like, we'll use this as a deterrent, we'll show this to the Krogan, and that'll stop them. And the Turians are like, Yeah, actually, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to use it on the Krogans and end this war.
Yeah. Yeah. The Solarian. Well, that's because this is a metaphor. The Solarians are the scientists of the Manhattan Project, being like, "This is a great and terrible power. We should only use this in the last resort." And then Harry Truman is the Turians, being like, "Yeah, no, we should bomb Japan right now."
Yeah. I mean, we probably have to talk about this because this is what the genophage is an analogy for, is the bombing of Hiroshima.
Is it? I think it's just, I mean, is it directly? I think that's a definite... Sorry, I didn't mean to be just...
No, it's
My
fair.
apologies.
That's what we're here to do, is to have these discussions.
It does feel like that kind of thing, but it feels a bit more nebulous just because, oh boy.
I think it is... I mean, look... How intentional is any of this we're talking about with it, right?
Oh.
Like how much of this is actually the writers of Mass Effect like recognize? But I think like it is easy to look at and be like, no, this is the mental space that this idea comes out of, right? And this question of whether the genophage is the right thing to do in this case, you know. Comes out of that very debate.
It's... Yeah, it is this weird thing where they're like, this is the ultimate weapon, but we had to use it because we were dealing with the ultimate threat. And it's like, what's the ultimate threat? The Krogan. Well, what are they? They were a race of highly aggressive colonizing aliens. But that sounds terrible.
Yeah. But the thing is, they weren't, is the thing.
Well, no, the thing is, that's what they were supposed to be. They were brought into Council space to be literally like a martial fucking race for the for the Solarians.
The Solarians couldn't beat the Rachni. They found the Krogan, who would never have gotten to space on their own because they were living amidst a nuclear winter of their own creation.
Yeah, which is another...
Yeah, let's arm these guys to fight the Rachni for us.
I mean, yeah, let's actually get into that because it was one of the most fucked up things I've ever read.
Yeah,
it was like the Solarians uplifted the Krogan, who were a primitive people who had done an accidental nuclear winter. I was like, so they were advanced enough to make nuclear weapons.
Yes.
And to have a nuclear war, but you're calling them primitive?
Well, because by the mentality of we travel through space, that is what primitive means, you know.
I understand, but I do feel like that's a real stretch. Considering
no, it
how
is.
like,
I mean, really, you can honestly, I know it's probably weird to people listening. Like, why aren't they talking more about what like? I want to get to the part where they talk about, like, you know, Garrus and doing mysteries and procedurals on the Citadel. And we'll get there. But, like...
Yeah, if you're familiar with Mass Effect. If you're not, you're like, why is this video game clearly just a bunch of Codex entries? Is this the point-and-click adventure? What?
Yeah, are they just reading a book? I thought this was a video game. But here's the thing is, like, if you are taking the time to go through that stuff, the Krogan War and the Rachni War seem like the two... most important things that have happened in the backstory of this game. There's nothing that is as deeply... not even the First Contact War is as deeply covered as the Krogan War.
Yeah, and, like, the First Contact War is also important, I think. But, like, even that doesn't really change the narrative. It's just like, oh, so everyone just commits wars and violence and, like, neo-genocide at the drop of a hat on this universe. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think...
Because that's the implication of the First Contact War, right? I'm not misstating it, right?
I mean, the thing that's crazy about the First Contact War is that it ends when the other Council races realize what's going on, but the Turians were just going to wipe out humanity. And which makes it interesting because the Rachni War, part of the reason why they had to wipe out the Rachni, they claim, is that they couldn't communicate with the Rachni. They couldn't open up communications, so they had but the Rachni were too aggressive, so they had no choice but to destroy them. It makes you wonder whether that part is actually true, or whether that's what the Council races say now. Because that was also their justification for taking out humanity until the Asari and Solarians realized what was going on.
Well, 100%. It was like the Solarians were just wanted those sweet Rachni planets, and they were like, we can use these Krogans. They're primitive. And then the Krogans started taking shit over, and they,
But even like the Krogan War, they failed to like find a diplomatic solution for. Yeah,
like, and I know that they could talk to those people.
Yeah, like literally, it's nuts when you read it.
No,
it's like basically
it's very funny. It's what is deeply funny, and I want to know how intentional this was, because I feel like maybe it was more intentional, and I missed it on my first playthrough for some reason. Is how much of this is intentional and like will be revealed to be like mistakes and fuck ups. But also,
we know where part of this goes.
Yeah, but also because I don't actually know if. Sorry, I was maybe speaking too disjointedly, but what I meant is, I'm curious to see how much of this history is supposed to sound fishy, and how much of this history is, like, going to be used to paint some of the alien races in a less than positive light, while also, like, kind of being portrayed as being the right choice in the end.
Well, how much of this history is fishy because it's meant to sound fishy, and how much of this history is fishy because the history taught to, countries that come from colonial powers like ours
is fishy.
Is fishy. And I know the writers of the series are not American, they're Canadian, but Canada has a very similar history to the United States of America.
Yeah, Canada has a very similar history and a better track record, not with cleaning it up, but with pretending to clean it up, which is really good.
So I wonder how, so what is the line?
Yes.
Is this fishy because it is meant to be, or is this fishy because that is, like, we teach and talk about history in a way that is disingenuous?
Yeah, well, definitely a lot of it's just how we talk about history, but yeah, I guess I am just curious to see the intentionality behind this.
It is like that thing, right, where, like, later on we're going to learn, like, I mean, one of the things that they mention in the Codex entries is, like, the reason the Krogans need to colonize is they can't actually, like, they reproduce at a, like, higher rate than any other species, and they're long-lived. So they live longer than most of the other species. So if you have, like... So they obviously, if you're going to uplift Krogan, they need space to live, But
yeah,
the problem is they need space to live at a rate that clearly, like, the council, like, awards colonies on a very per diem basis because, like, there is so much limited space.
Yeah, I guess that was the thing that, like, really struck me about the Krogan's uplift thing. Is it's clearly a short-sighted move on the Solarians' part to just, fix this Rachni problem. The Krogan can breed quickly, and, like, they're good warriors. They can deal with these bug people, and, they're primitive, so we don't need to worry about them post Rachni War. And then when they needed to worry about them, their immediate solution was, like, even as, like, a deterrent, the genophage is insane and evil, right?
Yeah. It is.
Like, as a deterrent, I'm like, oh, cool, so that's what the worst villain in a Saturday morning cartoon does. Why are you doing it? You're the good guys?
It is horrific in a way. Like, blowing up a city is horrific, Yeah. But this is, like, a horror that is, like, now been in effect for hundreds of years. Like, this sort of, like, culling of the Krogan,
It is a slow but ongoing constant ethnic cleansing of the Krogan. To be just to be honest about it, that's what it fucking is.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, a lot, like, it's so, I know this, like, the story goes deep into what happens to the Krogan, and we'll have opportunity to sort of re-explore this when we have more information, but it is such a, to me, it is, like, I can't, in a weird way, get past it. I just can't, like, I'd love to talk more about CSI Citadel, or whatever, but, like, this is just, all of this stuff is just in the backstory, and it is so... I don't know. Fascinating.
Yeah, I just like to call this Cora's Town.
Cora's Town?
Like Chinatown, Cora's Den. I was trying to make a thing.
Let's
get
just
into
not
a lot. Yeah.
so we finished up our meeting with the council. They're not going to do anything. And
oh,
then
sorry. We should say what we just described was an out-of-time sequence because the Codex entries are just something that weigh on us. But yes, nothing has happened.
I mean, I read these Codex entries at this point of the game. So that's why when I think back on this point of the game, I wasn't thinking about what was happening on screen as much as I was thinking about what was in the text of those games.
As much as you were thinking about the thing that they tell you and then, like, it don't get into at all on screen.
That nobody...
By introducing a Turian, a Quarian, and a Krogan, like, these people involved from these races, and these, like, huge, pretty dark intergalactic events, then you just don't get into them for a while.
We're not even gonna get to the Quarian stuff yet. That I am definitely saving until the end of this, because that is, as wild as I find the Krogan stuff, the Quarian stuff is even more wild.
Yeah, it's super good. Oh, God.
Alright, so you end up deciding that you need to find Garrus, the police officer who is looking into into this. You then have two options as to how to proceed. Udina points you towards Harkin, who is a disgraced cop who's just hanging out at Cora's Den, a bar run by a popular criminal and agent of the Shadow Broker. And instead, Captain Anderson recommends that you go and talk to a direct agent of the Shadow Broker who operates not in the wards, but in the Presidium where the council meets, who is basically basically describes the Shadow Broker as just a really great guy, who trades information, will get involved in politics for hire, but you don't have to worry, doesn't have a political agenda, which would make him bad and corrupt. So Anderson points you to go and just, get information from this, and describes the Shadow Broker. The most negative thing he says about the Shadow Broker is that the Shadow Broker is a necessary evil, but that basically you should trust any information you get from the Shadow Broker, is basically what Anderson says. It's wild. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you proceeded. I, of course, went and talked to the Shadow Broker.
Look, I maybe did this in the most weird back-asswood way possible. Where
I definitely missed stuff,
Yeah, I ended up going there and talking to Harkin before then,
But I think that's what you were supposed... That's how I used to always do it. Because I would go and I would get a scene where you hang out with Ashley Williams and Kaden Olenko on the wards. I did not get that scene this playthrough because I went and talked to the Shadow Broker agent instead, who pointed me to Rex, and then I, with Rex, went and found Garrus.
You know what's really weird? I think I did it in a different order again, because I also remember the Shadow Broker conversation this go-around. But I think I did the Shadow Broker conversation because I walked around the Citadel a bit before I talked to Anderson and Udina.
I met the Shadow Broker agent before I talked to them as well.
Yes,
which is partly why I went to them again, because I was like, I don't think I've ever... I don't remember that scene. I just remember going talking to Harkin. In fact, this time I never talked to Harkin, or met Harkin.
Oh, interesting. I still met Harkin and was rude to him because he was an asshole. Because he was a scuzzy dirtbag cop who was like, yeah, you know, you can't beat up criminals anymore. What is the use of this?
It is.
But I can't drink on the job.
But the thing is, Garrus, the cop who ends up joining your party, feels the exact same way.
Yeah, Garrus does feel the exact same way, but we're gonna come back to that probably because I don't love that either.
Citadel security is referred to as CSEC, you know.
Yes.
For Caesarean section. No.
Absolutely. That is what I think of when I think of Caesarean sections. I think of the CSEC officers who perform them. Brave men and women doing their duty every day to make sure that children are born the way that the Emperor himself was.
Yes. CSEC is wild. I don't understand what they're going for here. Because, they're going for an incredibly realistic organization of cops that will throw people under the bus, but most of the time it's like, yeah, no, it's cool if you're just a corrupt asshole. It is interesting to me. We've been debating, like, how much intentionality is in how this society is presented. And it's like, you go to, like, you're in this, like, beautiful, like, you know, pristine world, and then you go into the wards, and it's just crime all the time, and, like, C-section, god damn it. C-sec is, C-sec is awful. Basically, like, when you find Rex, they are, like, being like, hey, stop messing with Fist, the obvious crime lord who we just have in the wards, and it's not explained why CSEC is protecting Fist.
It is obvious. I told you already. It's Chinatown.
Yes. The thing is, like, it's so noir. Like, I was being, like,
I
always remember this as, like, nah, it's more procedural. It's like you go into the section of the game that's CSI Mass Effect, and it's like, no, this is Citadel Town. You know?
Yeah. Citadel Town. Yeah, it is a really wild part of this game. Which I was kind of digging, honestly.
I felt like it was one of those things where if we spent more time with it, I would have, and maybe got deeper into it, I would have really enjoyed. I think it was so out there. I did like some of the side quests tied to it. Like, there's one where, like, someone is basically like, yeah, you know, I'm being threatened by my coworker. Anyway, can you help me? And the cops are like, no, we don't want to get involved. Another one, like, has you helping a woman who is an agent, is like a undercover agent at Fist's, at Karen's Den, which is Fist's bar, and like you have to try to get her out, and the way to do that is basically to bust up a drug ring for this other CSEC officer. Not a drug ring, I think like a black market, like, illegal goods ring, which is crazy because in the Citadel, like, people sell guns and weapons on the street. There is nothing illegal about buying weapons, so the fact that there's illegal weapons trading on the Citadel is wild. But you know.
But you're allowed to have weapons. I often wonder about that because there are lots of designated agents of authority and, like, violence in council space, such that I could see weapon sales being legal, but only if you have, like, certain classes of license, and so there being a distinction there.
Yeah.
I guess that doesn't make... That's like, makes sense to me. But you're right. I don't know how much that is me, like, trying to make sense of it, as opposed to...
Well, I think it is because, like, everybody just runs around with guns, and it's only a big deal when the story decides they want it to be a big deal. Do you know what I mean? Like, you show up at Fist Bar after getting Rex, and, like, it is just there is a horrific, violent shootout for which there is no repercussions, you know.
Well, but to be fair, though, there are often horrific, violent shootouts at, like, less than posh establishments around me. So I assume that that's just how things are in the real world.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
I went to a bar the other night, and guess what happened? You know. Yeah, you go back to the bar like 15 minutes later because I had to do a side quest in there, and yeah, it was fine. There was nothing wrong with the bar that we just shot up. Not 15 minutes, not that very same day.
Yeah, well, that's how fast everyone on the Citadel works. They were like, yeah, no, we need to get you. We need to get this place back up and running because
the owner of the bar is dead. How?
The owner of the bar is dead. We've got a great opportunity. Do you know what this means? We can squat at this bar, and if we wait just 6 months, we get to have the rights. It'll be a workers' cooperative. Let's do it, guys. I don't know what this is. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. But we see the business, like we see like the cops, and they're like, well, you should just get started back up. Our boss died, and what about the person who killed him? Commander Shepard. Well, Commander Shepard's a Spectre, so we don't really question them. But they weren't a Spectre when they did this. Yeah, but they're a Spectre now is the thing. So, I'm
sorry, do you not know how Spectre status works? It retroactively makes you immune from all prosecution for your previous crimes.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, because why? Spectres act as the prosecution and also defense attorneys aboard the Citadel. That seems like a huge conflict of interest.
They're the defense attorneys, they're the prosecution, they're the jury, they're the judge, and they're the executioner.
They especially like that last one. Really? Why? Oh, no, it's just the shortest duties.
So we get Fisk, before you murder him, points you in the way of the Quarian Tali, who has information proving that Saren attacked Dino Prime.
Sorry, could I just quickly request that we take a bio break?
Oh yeah, no, it's a good spot for a break. Welcome back. Firstly, we should probably have a nice entree back from the cool music that was playing. Which we listened to on repeat while we were gone.
Absolutely.
To keep in mood.
Yeah. So Kit Fisto arranged an ambush of Tali.
Kit Fisto? Oh, no. Fist is a weird name. Is it a reference to, like, Wilson Fisk, the Spider-Man villain?
Maybe. Probably, right?
It has to be. It's such a Fist. It's such an odd name for a character. We go and, he points, also, it's weird that he arranged a, I accidentally spiked the mic there. Also, it's weird that he arranged a, ambush for Tali because from what he said, he had Tali, so I don't know why he had to ambush Tali. Like, why he couldn't just have his goons take Tali there or whatever.
The implication to me was like Tali didn't initially have the stuff, so he wanted her to get the stuff, and then
needed to go get it.
Set up a thing so Saren's men would would take her. I don't know. It was a little confusing.
It was
convoluted.
I'm guessing. I think it was probably there's an explanation for it that in their minds, but it didn't come across particularly well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd listened to all of that dialogue and I was like, I don't know. This seems awkward. Why wasn't she just here? Why did I need the second encounter?
It makes no sense. You go, especially because it is like literally like right down the alley from the bar. It is like 15 feet from the bar is where this ambush is.
It's so funny.
You go break it up, and Tali, out of gratitude, shares with you the evidence, which is Saren saying, "Man, wasn't it great how we attacked and destroyed Eden Prime?" we're one step closer to finding the conduit. Then a female voice goes, and one step closer to the return of the Reapers.
Yeah.
And so with that, you take this to the council, who then take your evidence completely at face value.
Yep. They, all of them, even the Turian, who had been really against you.
Because if you show the one piece of evidence, it's going to completely it's good faith, really.
If you show the one piece of evidence, and
the
other guy isn't there to offer any kind of rebuttal or like
a piece of evidence that would never be accepted in court.
No. Absolutely not. After the decision had already been made.
Not only that, after the decision had already been made, an audio recording with no evidence of what it actually is, other than it sounds like him, which is pretty nebulous. It's impossible to prove.
It's utterly insane. It's funny.
They also recognize who the other character on the call is. I need to move my microphone away because I'm spiking it by accident. They also recognize who the other character on the call is. The Sari goes, oh, it's Matriarch Benezia? No, it's definitely her. Don't worry. You should go and take her out as well. This isn't some weird political ploy on my part to discredit a political rival. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It struck me as odd how quickly it was like, nope, we know exactly who that is. Now you have all the pieces of the mystery. I don't know why Saren broadcasted. The Quarian Tali, she got this from a Geth who she took out and took the evidence from. So I don't know why Saren was broadcasting his conversation with Matriarch Benezia to all of the Geth, but there you are. It's a good thing he did, I guess.
Maybe the Geth are like the Borg, and they just have to broadcast all of this to all of them.
Fair. They are kind of presented that way. He's stripped of his Spectre status, which I'm not sure what that means, since he basically clearly is also the head of an intergalactic crime organization.
Is it a crime organization, or does he just have an army?
It is a crime organization now.
Okay.
Yeah, it used to just be Saren's agents in the field, but now it is a crime organization.
No, I guess I was... he has the Geth.
Yeah, no.
He has, an entire, or at least what seems to be, in this game, an entire sovereign nation.
Yes. No, it's not actually clear what stripping Saren of his status accomplishes at this point. I feel like, but maybe there was never a time where that could have happened and to have actually stopped Saren.
Yeah, no...
If you have agents you can't officially sanction, then what actually, if you have agents that you can't officially sanction, then what does it mean when you stop sanctioning them? If Spectres are agents who are supposed to be able to subvert the rule of law, then how can you actually take their status and their power away?
You kind of can, which is, really good for Spectres, and dope for the rest of this community.
And it's really good for you, because the Council does not want to send an army into the Traverse to deal with the army that is currently building up to destroy them. So instead, they give you Spectre status and send you into there, because that's supposed to be able to solve the entire issue.
Well, you know what they say. The only thing that can stop one unaccountable person with an army is another unaccountable person without an army, but with one fancy ship.
Yep, pretty much. One ship usually can do it.
I do actually love Mass Effect's pitch in hindsight, where it's the person who's going to save this galaxy? Is it someone with special powers? Is it someone who's very important? No, absolutely not. It is the first human CIA agent.
Yeah.
With with Wonder Woman's invisible plane, basically. That's what'll do it.
Yeah, that's what it is. It is. I mean, I feel like there's always, to some extent, like there is the why is it such a small group? So we have to explain that away, and here it is the most inexplicable. You know what I mean? Like in this Old Republic, it is that like, oh well, you're just a group of Jedi searching for these old artifacts, and then that happens to tie into the end of the war.
And also in Knights of the Old Republic, like, you have Star Wars to base that off of, where it is a very small group of people. And they're kind of only important in the first movie, it seems, because one of them's a Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like, Mass Effect really tries to set itself up as this politically... I mean, it does, right? It is this thought-out world,
Yeah, I guess that's the thing that's, like, really baffling to me about this, because... It is a thought-out world, but then Shepard and, like, their role in it, while thought out, is given... The reason why Shepard is special is given very cursory thought. Like, the Prothean beacon is pretty minor. It's pretty wild that's like, what
it's not even something that characters are listening to. Like, because once Shepard hears Reapers, they go, no, this is definitely what I've been... This is what I saw from the beacon. This is definitely happening. And nobody believes Shepard. Nobody believes Shepard about the Reaper thing, So it's not even like you are an extreme, and already you are like on the extreme for believing in the Reapers.
Yeah, you basically believe in a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it is basically you are an unaccountable cop who received some messages that's telling him that there is a deeper conspiracy behind the political moves of someone with an army, I guess. And now you are a cop who can basically go wherever they want and do whatever they want without accountability.
Yeah. It's really cool and good.
So after you leave the Citadel space, you go back to your ship and get a chance to talk to your new crew members. Rex, I don't think Rex offers too much that we haven't learned from the Codex entries, except that Rex, doesn't seem that worked out. Like, thinks the Genophage is horrific, but also does not particularly like his people. Doesn't think the Krogans are all that great. And so
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you though.
No, it's kind of a weird segment, right? Because it is that, hey, we have to characterize how horrible the Genophage is, but we also don't want to stop the game to really talk about him.
I mean, it almost comes across as, really sick to me, where they just don't like the Krogans.
Yeah.
Where they're like, no, the things that we wrote are pretty much right. The Genophage is horrible, but, we're gonna give it a 6 out of 10 on the atrocity meter scale.
I feel like what Mass Effect 1 wants you to take away is that the Genophage was necessary. Or not.
Yes.
Even that it's what it wants you to take away. That's what it plans on you feeling about it, so that later on it can be actually it's bad,
Yeah.
I do think coming to consciousness about the horror of what Citadel, the Council has basically done to the galaxy is part of the trajectory. But we've discussed the Krogan pretty much more than any other topic. I'd like to talk a little bit about Garrus.
I guess I was gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna argue with that, because I don't know if they think that the galaxy is horrific. It's more that they're Nope, we'll get into that. We'll get into that
Yeah.
in Mass Effect 3, a video game that, ooh boy, I'm so excited to play.
Well, I think that is ultimately going to be the question that we're going to have to face with this series is what is this world to Mass Effect? But that's going to be a longer conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Garrus is excited because now that he's on a Spectre's team, he doesn't have to worry about all the red tape that he had to cut through as a C-Sec cop.
Okay.
Which is crazy because there was no limitations on this on the C-Sec cops.
Can we actually get into this?
Yes.
It's fucking so wild that that C-Sec's like problem is presented in the text of the game.
Yes. Throughout.
Explicitly as being that they're like too into red tape and rules.
Yeah, literally and Garrus is a beloved crew member, like in the fandom, and he's literally a character who's like, yeah, man, wouldn't it be great if we could really crack some skulls? But all this bureaucracy.
He's literally a fucking psycho cop.
Yeah, no, I don't even want to make jokes about this. It is so messed up that like this is what we have as on our team, and it is not like you can like as Shepard you can be like, hey, come on, we're not gonna bust every head, and like Garrus is like, no, we're gonna break some heads, you know. Oh my god.
Yeah, and then you can't be a Shepard like, no, we're not gonna actually break every head. I'm a soldier. We have more rules than this?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I didn't think we did.
But they do. That's the thing. It's like, man, I'm gonna join the military where the real work gets done. It's like, oh my god.
No, that is not what Garrus is saying. Garrus is explicitly saying, finally, I get to be a Spectre-like thing.
Yeah.
Where the real work gets done, where we can just torture people.
The thing is, Garrus hates Saren because he thinks Saren just does whatever he wants and is cruel. But Garrus also wants to have the same exact authority and power as Saren. Garrus is someone who would become a Spectre on his life trajectory, I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. He probably would have been, regardless, so...
He is, I think, isn't he
cool.
like, yeah. I don't know. We'll get to that, I guess. But it's just...
We sure will.
That was a lot. After seeing the C-Sec section of the game, and for it to be, like so wild, what would, how all that resolved. It's like, there's so much... Here's what's weird, is like, when you go to the Citadel, which is like this bastion of civilization for this galaxy, it is crime-ridden. And literally the explanation for why it's so crime-ridden is all of the bureaucracy. You know, it's...
Yeah.
It's like, man,
it's one of those
if we
things
could just
where I'm like...
let loose, you know, like you Spectres can.
Yeah. If we could let loose, there would be so much less crime on this station. So many more Presidiums, so much
less
prettier
wards.
Places.
Yeah.
If only we could get rid of these filthy ward dwellers.
Whew.
An ominous pan down to the people just trying to survive in the wards, and then Garrus laughs.
I mean, we know where Garrus goes in Mass Effect 2, and I'm
he basically does that. He does that in a place where he can get away with it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, no, what he does is he goes full, allegedly, American Sniper.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah, right?
Yeah.
He just moves into, like, an
There's
abandoned...
literally... you find him and he is sniping people. Like, yeah.
Just like that guy said he did from the roof of the Superdome. What a psychopath.
So, after talking to Garrus, I mean, you can talk to these people in any order, and this is even the order I talk to them in, because my notes are in a different order. But we'll end on what is the most wild. I mean, already there's been a lot discussed here, and we're getting a little long in tooth, so hopefully we'll wrap up soon. But we get to talk to Tally about about the Quarian viewpoint on the Geth, what she refers to as the Geth Rebellion. And she refers to and she starts to saying like, oh, they rebelled against us, so we had to fight them, and we lost.
Yeah.
But then the more you talk to her, she reveals what we know from the Codex, which is that the Geth, she doesn't say self-evolution. She literally says self-awareness. And then the Quarians decide they need to destroy the Geth because and this is what she says, if the Geth become self-aware, that means that we are enslaving them. And if we are enslaving them, they will rebel against us because we have done something horrific to them. So we have to destroy them.
How about this, Tali? How about you stop enslaving the Geth and you try to like I don't know, help them come to self-awareness, like help that evolve and develop, and maybe like discover that they would actually be fine with some of these like tasks that you were having them do, because they're machines and like work doesn't mean the same thing for them potentially, and like maybe they did hate some of them.
Yeah, maybe
and you could have them stop doing those tasks, but I don't know. There's shit you can do if they're self-aware.
The crazy thing is,
that starts a ton more possibilities. That doesn't mean immediate genocide. I'm sorry. What the fuck?
But so is it that the Geth will actually rebel, or is it that the Quarians just are like, they're like, shoot, we did a crime. We're not allowed to make artificial intelligence. We have to destroy the evidence of this.
I'm sorry. I am pretty sure, like, now, based off things that I remember reading back when Mass Effect 3 came out, that the developers at least see this as just the obvious and logical thing of what happens whenever organic life creates synthetic life.
I guess that's it,
Oops,
right?
We've got to commit genocide.
We got to genocide this life.
We got to genocide this life that we created. I guess it's technically the same logic as the Animatrix, / the Matrix, but why didn't I just say the Matrix? Sorry.
It is. I mean, this is such a through line right now in science fiction, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to the point that I don't want to spoil. But the season of the show came out a year ago. But the end of Star Trek Picard's first season literally ends with the Reapers showing up, and that's how. And they're literally described in the same exact way as the Reapers, right? It is these race of superpowered robots that show up and destroy organic life, because organic life always tries to destroy synthetic life. And that is the current plotline in Star Trek, or was like the last season's plotline in Star Trek. We've reached this point where there's only one story that we want to tell now with science fiction, and it's this one. So, which is, I guess that's just where we're at, right? We're at this crossroads, I remember interviewing a game developer who made a game, and I'm not gonna go too deep into it. Like saying that they thought that like prejudice against robots is going to be the next like version of racism, and it's wild to me that science fiction is so obsessed with asking these questions and not asking, like, I don't know, like, why don't we ever see these issues actually brought up? You know what I mean? Like, not as an analogy for like robots, where the robots can be as monstrous or as human-like as you want them to be,
Well, I guess more of the point for me is Mass Effect doesn't just raise this question of like genocide with robots alone. It also raises it with peoples like the Krogan.
Yes.
And kind of every time it's been brought up, it's been justified more or less.
Yeah.
Like, there's There's a race that we haven't really met, but we've read. There's been a Codex entry for them, the Betrys, and
which is crazy as well. Yeah, I forgot to put this in the outline.
Yeah, but I don't know how much we should talk about them just because it is the one Codex entry, but like, and you actually get to like see them and they become more of a thing later. So maybe we should talk about them more.
We'll talk about them when we get to the Mass Effect 1 DLC, where they're introduced.
But they're another species that I'm like, this actually seems like a very nuanced thing that you're making. You're basically just making them villains.
Yes. And I mean, the Batarians are, without getting into it too much, are a civilization that, like, our alien race, who basically the Council screwed over to show favoritism for humans.
Yeah.
And this seems to be what is going on in all of... And like in all of these Codex entries is like the Citadel picks the species that they are going to put over the other one, and empower the ones that they feel like. I mean, basically, like the makeup of the council is such. It's described that it's like, oh well, the three states that they represent are so powerful that none would betray the other out of fear of not being able to defeat the other two, and which. When you consider that's probably why they're actually afraid to add other species to the council, because that means that can change that like this fragile and terrifying balance of power that the three main sovereign powers have.
Well, but surely that's a fiction. Like if based off the Codex entries, it actually seems like the Turians are a lot more powerful, and that the Asarians The Asarians, Jesus, the Asari.
But every other species is Solarian, Quarian, Taurian.
Yeah.
And then Asari. It's I think I used to say Asarians all the time by accident. It's just so.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever.
Krogans even are more similar.
Yeah. No. Asari are a very weird outlier, but I should know them. Asari and the Solarians might just be wanting to add the humans to balance that out, right? Because I think currently the balance of power is 5-3-1 of Turian's other council races. So and then other
humans,
other races in council space, basically.
Yeah.
So so if you were adding also the strength of the humans. I'm guessing that's the actual realpolitik answer. But I don't know how realpolitik Mass Effect is, which is problematic, because it seems to be a lot, but also maybe isn't at all.
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of realpolitik in, how it presents politicians, but it presents that as, that is getting in the way of actual progress, which then falls to the military, because the military isn't there's no politics in the military.
I guess that's why I think it doesn't have much realpolitik, because if it had realpolitik, there would be politicians who the military loved because they were willing or able to cut through that in some way.
Right. It takes the Turians not wanting the humans being in the council as we had a conflict with them 30 years ago. I said 10 in the last episode, but I went double checked. It was 38 years. But
that's
at the same time,
it was time.
Yeah. But the real reason is because the Asari. I mean, clearly the Asari want the humans on the council because they know they can manipulate the humans. And
that's 100% right.
The humans rebalance the power, right? It is very much Asari want to rebalance power because they have been forced to cede power to the Turians, right? Because the Turians only came into power after the
Krogans.
Yeah. So I think at a certain point the Krogans were and the Solarians are who brought the Krogan in,
Yeah. There's also and they seem to have been closer with the Turians. There was also, the Volus ambassador who was salty about humans.
Yes.
That made absolutely no sense to me when I learned that, like, the Volus are a client state of the Turians. I was like, well then, yeah, no, of course you're not on the Council. Because you're already on the Council. Because you're a client race of the Turians.
I mean, basically, like, it actually made me feel really bad. Like, it's weird in that they're presented as being annoying, right? But actually, like, what does that say about, like, all right, well, they are a client state of the Turians, but they feel like they need to have the same authority as them. What are the Turians doing to the Volus?
Oh, no, to my mind, it was very much just that they're a second-tier power now because they don't have military. Everyone is envious of human and Turian military capabilities, is basically what this is coming down to.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like what this comes down to, again, we're talking about, like, the conflict that they're presenting in the story does not feel like the conflict that arises naturally out of the lore, because I think, like, the conflict that arises naturally out of the lore at this point is a war between humans and the Turians. The humans basically acting as the sort of military arm of the Asari.
Yeah. It would be interesting, right? I feel like we're outlining a very fascinating
a very different Mass Effect trilogy. Yes. You know, it just seems like that is the conflict that we should be having. Or that I now want to see, right? Like, maybe that's what I want to do as my AU Mass Effect role playing game now. Is like, what would happen if this was a story told from that perspective? Or treated the lore that way.
It would be especially interesting if you had different kinds of humans who maybe questioned humanity and its role more. Too, as, like, characters, you know.
Well, I think naturally people would, right? Like, I think players in a role-playing game now would question this stuff. And that if Mass Effect was being made today, these are, either the lore would be changed in a way to more naturally flow towards the Reaper conflict, or these would be the sort of questions that players would have, you know?
Yeah. Or I mean, they might not, I don't know. But, yeah, this is what I would like to see in a sci-fi epic game trilogy.
Totally. No, yeah. So sorry for this one. Went a little long. This one as long as our episode 0.
Yeah, no, we're great at making short, concise episodes. Look forward to our 5-hour episode about the relationships in Mass Effect 2.
Oh no.
Yeah, they'll be spread out over 5 weeks.
Yep. So yeah, if people are wondering why we're not talking as much about the side quests, we are actually going to do that at the end of Mass Effect 1. At the end of each of these games, because we just don't know when we're going to get to each of the side quests. Probably as we get deeper, it'll be at different times. So there's not really a lot of reason for us to include that in our scheduling. So that's just going to be at the end. We'll deep dive on the side quests that stood out. We're going to make lists and notes, hopefully, so that we can, remember what we want to discuss. And then we'll see how that works. It might not be we might not be able to do that with the later games where there's so much more to break down, or maybe we will. Who knows? We're gonna see how it works this time. But yes, the next episode is going to encompass us going to Artemis Tau.
Absolutely.
And I'll probably get some side quests done as well on the side of that as a way to level up first. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about it. Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about that as we progress.
So, and this is, just to be clear, this is the one to get Mago.
Yes, this is the one to get,
Liara. Sorry, I should be clear.
Yeah.
The last crew member. You get your crew so fast in Mass Effect 1.
Except I didn't. When I played through it, I went to Artemis Tau last.
Oh, man.
So I didn't get Liara towards the end of the game. I played through Mass Effect 1 in a screwy way. I think I remember more replaying it than even my first playthrough, which was a bit of a, marathon dive into the game.
Yeah, I do feel like my first playthrough with all of these games is just me messing it up in a way that I'm like, oh, I'll know the correct order, because there is just a correct order. Especially with Mass Effect 1, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, no, explicitly there is, but it doesn't really fully direct you that way, so it's a little confusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
Although,
the Citadel.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but I did immediately go to find Liara my first playthrough. That has never changed.
I just wasn't. Oh, I spiked it again. Man, I've been so active. No, I just wasn't aware that like it. I was playing this day one, so I wasn't. I didn't have a lot of information about who the characters were. You know what I mean? Oh yeah,
that makes sense.
All right. Well, that was the Citadel, and we'll see you all next episode for Artemis Tau. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mass Reflect. If you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed it, please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. I'm sure we'll be up on a couple of them. People say that's a good idea. I think we're also going to be up on YouTube. So yeah, if you can, please rate, review, subscribe, and just tell your friends about it. This is meant to be a good time. Maybe you have a Mass Effect friend, a Mass Effect fan as a friend, or maybe you have friends in Mass Effect. I don't know. What you can't hear is Bees laughing at me while I record this, and it's making me laugh. And no, but I'm enjoying it. So if you can, please rate and review us. And we'll be back soon with another episode. Thank you.